the T-Lou, and my oh my, have we had some football matches and some results today that have set the cat amongst the pigeons. De Zerbi is not off to the best start with Spurs, and obviously a lot of us have just watched Manchester City absolutely annihilate Chelsea. I did also watch the Crystal Palace and Newcastle match, which I'm not going to go through on this stream. Tomorrow's 12 p.m. stream is going to be completely dedicated to Newcastle. I'm going to be discussing Eddie Howe. I'm going to be discussing his comments about himself. I'm going to be talking about the match today. And then obviously I'll look at his after-match comments from the match today. So I'm going to just do all of Newcastle tomorrow in one special Newcastle stream, because we spoke about them so often this season and then they've dropped off our radar a little bit. We're not spoken about them in a little while, so I'm going to do just a full Newcastle stream tomorrow. So in this stream, we are going to be talking about Spurs, Sunderland and Spurs, and we're going to be talking about Chelsea and Manchester City. I see all of the lovely people very nicely and very organised filing into the chat. Please do smash the like button on your way into the show, people. Shem was here. Our very lovely Shem was here really early and says, "Hello, lovely boss lady Lou. I'm so done with this club. Different managers, same players, same shit club. No heart, no desire, no creativity. Can't score, can't stop other teams from scoring, even when it's a fluke goal." He did continue and say Romero crying is not because of Spurs going down without him, but because he could be out of a World Cup. Terrible team performance, a bunch of individuals on the pitch who don't know how to play like a team. So poor Shem is really feeling it today, guys and gals. Dave Boy is here. He's saying, "Chin up, Shem, mate. All you need is a new manager." Jenny is in the house also, our very lovely Jenny, and she is also sending some kind words to our lovely Shem, and she's saying it's so hard to watch players that don't seem to care, and I think we've all probably experienced that at some point, maybe even presently with our own club, so we can all relate to Shem on that one. Gaz is in the house. Nice to see you, Gaz. Streets is in the house saying hello, 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 hello. There's loads of hellos. Who else have we got? Paige is in the house, the lovely Paige. Guess is with us this evening. Moonshine is here. Gaz is saying it's a bad day for Arsenal and Spurs. Greg is in the house. Big up to Greg. Bruno is in the house as well, says, "What a time to be a Man United fan. I'm going to wait until tomorrow before I make any decisions on how good it is to be a Man United fan right now. I am not going to tempt fate." But everybody is saying hi, all the people greeting each other, everybody's in the house. Who else? Sam is in the house. Big up to Sam, who says, "Hi, Lou and legends." We have the Mr. Macus in the house saying, "Hey." So big up to Mr. Macus. Who else have we got? Everybody, hi. Big up. Okay. Big up to everybody for joining us. Big up to everyone for being here. Just, we're going to have a wee chat. Just a wee chat. Wouldn't we like us to have a wee chat on this channel? Tell me, guys, do we want to talk first about Spurs, or do we want to talk first about City and Arsenal? You guys let me know in the chat. Which do you want to do first? We're going to talk about both. Flossie, I don't know if you heard it before you come in. Tomorrow I'm talking about Newcastle. I'm doing Newcastle's match, Eddie Howe, everything. I'm doing a full Newcastle stream tomorrow at 12 p.m. But guys, Spurs first or City Arsenal first? Let me know. Let me know what you guys want to do first. I will do what you say because, I'm not a dictator like that. It's a democracy in here. So let me know. Right, Moonshine says Spurs. Moonshine was the first with the vote, therefore that's what we're doing first. So, Sunderland Spurs was very end to end, very early on. Oh, good stuff, Mama. I wasn't sure because I know sometimes you're listening, but you're not always typing. So I I didn't know if you heard me. Mr. Marcus is asking, I haven't seen any videos about Everton, or I haven't watched them all. I think I've only done one video on Everton specifically. You'll find a lot of the time I don't always get everything in the title, because the titles have like limited characters. A lot of the time I'll kind of jump from team to team to team. So I haven't done any, I can't think of other than one specifically about Everton, but I would have spoken about them kind of throughout my other videos, if that makes sense. I actually would have spoken about them quite a bit after Manchester United playing them. I was talking about Tarkowski. I did a video on Grealish and kind of the before and after, the win percentages, all that kind of stuff. But probably it's mostly intertwined with a lot of other stuff. So like today I'll have Spurs and I'll have City obviously in the title, but we will talk about other things. So you're probably just going to have to join us for all of the streams, Mr. Marcus. It's just we'll just have to have you here with us the whole time. But let me see. Sam, did anyone hear the boos at the final whistle for Chelsea, was it? I did not, because I ran up the stairs to get the stream ready and to update the thumbnail, which I hope I have the right one up now. But no, so I didn't hear them, but I'm assuming you mean for Chelsea, which is not good. That's not going to be good. But yeah, so the Sunderland and Spurs match, I thought, started very end to end. You could see from the get-go, Robbie was in the match. He was feeling physical. He was getting on top of people. He was attacking. He was threatening. He was really, really on it today, Robbie. Really, really on it today for Sunderland. But there was a point when all these attacks were happening, because earlier on it was very much, I thought, Sunderland attacking, specifically through Robbie for the most part. But there was a point where Romero tries to make a clearance, but he tries to make a clearance by backheeling the ball and completely misses it, and the keeper Kinski has to kind of step in and save his backside. But if Kinski hadn't saved it, that wouldn't have been a good start. That would have been quite embarrassing. I thought it was an unusual way to try and defend when you're under the level of pressure that you're under. I did think it was an unusual approach to defending. I couldn't really understand it. The only thing I could think was that maybe he kind of ran too far ahead of himself and he didn't have time to turn around, and so he just stuck out whatever body part he could. But I'm reaching there. I'm trying to give him some sort of excuse. Flossie, oh my goodness me. Teacup announcement, 547 teacups. Goodness me, guys. Thanks for being here. Ugh, lovely to have yous. Moonshine is telling everybody to please hit the like button. Thank you kindly. Sam is saying, yeah, the Chelsea game, there weren't many fans left. Dave Boy, Shem, cover your ears for this bit. Dave Boy says, it serves Spurs right for charging $8.50 for a pint. I'm sorry. That's quite funny. Huge is in the house. Big up to Huge, our fantastic tea titan. Yes, guys, the subs are flying up. I love it. Everybody is joining our tea party, and you are most welcome, Mr. Macus. I will always do my best. Obviously I can't read all the comments, but I do my best to try and make sure I read a selection of comments from everybody so nobody feels left out. Paige is saying here, so gutted for Spurs and the fan base. I was hoping they would at least get a draw out of today's game and kick on from there, starting to fear the worst now. Yeah, I reckon they're done now. And I don't know if anybody remembers, but it had to be about 2 months ago. Kate of the lovely Kate and Jimbo said to us, do you remember she came on the Sunday and she said to us, I reckon we're going to be relegated. And I told Kate, don't be so dramatic. You're not going to be relegated. So I would like to formally apologise to Kate, who was not at all being dramatic. She was bang on the money, because I now think you are going to be relegated. Greg is saying, haven't seen a major team relegated like this since Juventus in 2006, which, people, don't panic, we're not going into ages again, but yes, that was in fact 20 years ago. Absolutely crazy. Street says it's been coming. It's coming. Sam is saying, sorry to Kate and Jimbo, but I think they're going down. I do think they're going down. To be fair, Kate has been prepping Jimbo for a couple of months now that it's probably going to happen. I think he's dealing with it mentally ahead of time. But it has to be tough for the fans. However, there was then kind of a pen check for Moani. And there was a bit of controversy there because the penalty was given on the pitch. VAR said, go and have a look at it. The referee goes to the monitor and he says, actually, do you know what? You were fallen before anything happened, and the player that made contact with you made contact with the ball prior to touching you. Therefore, actually, I'm rescinding the penalty. Obviously, Spurs are a bit raging, because they're thinking, well, that would have been very helpful. Thank you very much. We would have liked to take that one. But to be honest with you, when you review the footage, I do think it was the right call for the penalty not to be given. I don't know what you guys think of that, if you watched it, where you land on it. But for me, I did think it was the right thing for the penalty to be cancelled. The Sunderland player does make contact with the ball prior to making any contact with Moani. And Moani, he was already falling. So for me, I thought it was the right decision to rescind it. But I can understand if you're a Spurs fan, you're going to be devastated, because that was kind of your foot into the game, if you know what I mean. Because up until that point, while it wasn't that Spurs had like absolutely no opportunity. They did have some possession. They were getting a little bit of chances, but Sunderland for me were definitely looking more dangerous. Gaz, yeah, oh, and oh dear, oh Gaz, I think you've got a big black dot next to your name now. I'm reading the chat here. Yeah, that's it. Mama's gonna have her eyes on you now, Gaz. You're for it. No, our Flossie's very good, to be fair. She doesn't get overly sensitive, which is wonderful, because that would not be a good trait to have in a mod. But Mama Flossie, there's very little you'll be able to say that she hasn't seen on YouTube. She's good. She knows more than the rest of us stuck together, I think. But so look, you move on from that, and it kind of just continued in the same vein, to be honest. Sunderland, by far for me, they were the more dangerous team. They were really... The problem was they weren't being clinical. They were getting all of the chances. It was, for me, very much kind of attack for Sunderland. Spurs were getting a bit of the ball, but they weren't doing a whole lot with it. The only one who seemed to be really making any attempt or really asking Sunderland to do anything was Richarlison. He was the only one that even was getting down the line a little bit. He wasn't getting very far because his teammates weren't helping him. But, like, for me, Richarlison really was the only one who did a whole lot of anything. I'm going through it in order. I have to check my notes, guys, because there was so much football today and there was so many different things happening in different matches, so I don't want to miss anything and not talk about it. But really what I felt like was, I wrote this in the first half, but to be honest, it was probably true the whole way through the match. So in the first half, I wrote down Brobby, Mukiele and Xhaka all getting chances, all being dangerous, all on the ball. They need to be more clinical. They have got to be more clinical, because at some point, if they don't score one of these, eventually you're going to regret it, because that is the law of football. If you don't take your chances, the football punishes you, basically. So Van de Ven, and I thought this was interesting. Van de Ven got a yellow. And the reason he got a yellow was because there was a promising piece of play by Brobby. He was kind of going in for an attack. It wasn't a clear goal scoring opportunity, but it was, he was developing a play. Van de Ven got a yellow for stopping him, and a free kick was given. But something similar happened in the Chelsea and City match, and there was no yellow card given to the City player. I don't think I've written down who the player was, but I remembered when I saw it, I was like, oh, but the yellow was given for that in the Spurs match. And what I will say, I did find in the Spurs-Sunderland match, I did find that a lot of the decisions were going against Spurs in terms of free kicks and fouls, and I have to say, I didn't feel the ref was fair. I don't think it influenced the match. I don't think it changed the outcome of the game, but that's easy for me to say. I didn't think the referee was fair. I did feel like a lot of the decisions were going Sunderland's way. I felt like Sunderland were allowed to be a lot more physical than Spurs were. So you had the point where Robbie kind of elbows Porro a bit, and there was a yellow given for it. There was talk, would it be a red because he's elbowed him? And what they said was, well, he didn't swing the elbow, so it wouldn't be considered violent conduct. My thing is, if you look at the size of Robbie and you look at the size of Porro, it's not going to take much from Robbie. You're not going to have to do a big swing for Robbie to hurt Porro, and he sent him flying. I tweeted at the time, and I said for me it was orange. I think it was more than a yellow. I can kind of see why a red wasn't given, but I do think it was borderline. I thought it was really borderline, and I thought there was a number of incidents like that where the Sunderland players were allowed to be quite physical, but if any of the Spurs player got in any way physical at all, it was straight away a free kick for Sunderland. So, like I said, Sunderland were very, very good. They were a very high tempo. They were attacking. All they needed was to get a bit more clinical. Spurs were trying, but just weren't really getting anywhere. But I did think as well, because it can all be true, the referee I did think was given more decisions to Sunderland, despite the fact that I actually thought Sunderland were being a lot more physical with Spurs players than vice versa. And let's face it, guys, I actually regularly criticise the discipline of the Spurs players on here. I talk about it all the time. But today, I did think Sunderland got away with a few. I did really think so. Let me see. Harold is in the house. Hello to lovely Harold. Twice in one day. We're spoiled today. Harold has not seen a single second of football today. Well, that is A-okay, my dear. That's why we're going to tell you all about it. You don't need to watch it. That's what we're here for. Spurs have not won in 15 games. I think they're going down, says Dave Boy. I mean, it's hard to argue with that. They haven't won since the 28th of December, I think it was. And the team they beat at that point was Crystal Palace. And not Crystal Palace that played Newcastle today. Bad Crystal Palace. So, yeah. When you look at the trajectory, it's just hard not to see them going down now at this point. Sam, I feel it in your water, Gaz. Hope for Kate and Jimbo, you're right back, or you're right and Forrest go down. Yes, Streets is saying truth, the ref seemed suspect. Harold says, I usually watch the Norwegians, but now it's like I need a break. I will watch Manchester United tomorrow though. Absolutely, Harold. That's a whole different kettle of fish. Aaron is also agreeing, Moonshine, I correct myself. I agree, Lou, it was a borderline. Paige says the ref was really quick with the yellow cards regarding Tottenham. Do you know what? I'm actually glad you have all said that, because I thought maybe that was going to be a hot take. Let's not talk about it. So it's actually a lukewarm take. I didn't know if I was going to get a lot of backlash for that and everybody was going to tell me I was like seeing things. So I'm actually glad you have all said that, because I was like, am I imagining it? Because I'm feeling like sorry for Spurs, but it did feel that way. Flossie, who would be the expert on this subject of the rest of us, and says, well, the Mackems are a physical team, and she would know. So Flossie has spoken, which means we're all correct. So I did just think there was so many attacks, but there was nothing clinical happening. And as I said, I thought in the first half, certainly Richarlison was the only one giving Spurs even a spark. But it did feel like only a matter of time. And so when you start the second half then, with 3 of the Spurs back 4 on yellow cards, that does make it difficult. It does change how they play the game. It does change things. When 3 of your back 4s on a yellow card going into the second half, so you haven't even kicked off for the second half, 3 of your back 4s on yellow cards, I do think that makes it difficult. And I agree, Street. Spurs did have chances too. They did have chances. They just didn't feel as dangerous as the ones for Sunderland. even though there were chances, they felt different. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes when you see a chance, you're like, oh, this is probably going to be a goal here. Sometimes when you see a chance, you're like, I always knew that wasn't going in. And I felt like that was the difference a little bit. However, really, the second half continued how the first half had gone. Sunderland with the better chances. Sunderland kind of being a bit more feisty. Sunderland looking that bit more dangerous. And then eventually, they do actually manage to get clinical. And Mukiele scores the goal. He had loads of space. And I talked about this. What match did we talk about this yesterday? It almost felt like the Spurs players gave him so much space. He was able to just drive through and take the shot. There was nobody near him. And it results in a goal. It's a good goal, but he had so much space. It does flick slightly off Van de Ven on the way in, but I mean, it was a good shot. It was a good goal. And to be honest, it was pretty much with the run of play. I don't think anybody was astounded that Sunderland had gone 1-0 up. Do you know what I mean? Then obviously you had the collision between Romero and Kinski and their heads. And then that was another controversial thing because Brobby, who's already on a yellow and potentially on what should have been an orange, pushes Romero in the back, which leads to him colliding with Kinski. And both of them were quite seriously injured. And you didn't really know if either or both were going to be able to continue. Kinski, his head was bleeding quite severely. They had to mop him up and he had that big bandage on his head for the rest of the match. And the reason there was 11 minutes of extra time at the end of that match was because there was so much medical treatment for them. And obviously they had to do the whole concussion protocol and everything. You see then Romero comes off, he's crying, he's emotional. Now don't get me wrong, I think Romero is a loose cannon. Because at one point he headbutts the back of Brobby's head and he's on a yellow. And he was never getting the ball. So it's not as if I think Romero is like some sort of angel. But when he's coming off crying like that and he looked genuinely upset. I also think it was a sign that he wasn't quite right after the clash. He wasn't quite, I think the right thing was just to get him off the pitch. It does remind you that they're human beings as well. But as Shem said earlier, was he crying for Spurs or was he crying for himself? The emotion was genuine, but who was it for? Moonshine is saying, I hate when a striker does that, pushes the defender into the keeper. It's naughty. And I can understand why the Spurs fans were a bit up in arms. I can understand why the Spurs players were a bit up in arms. There was a little bit of I wouldn't quite go as far as a melee because it didn't get overly physical, but there was definitely some strong words had between the teams and the players after that happened. I didn't like it. And when you see the injury that it resulted in, I think he was already on a yellow that really could have been more than a yellow. To then go and do that and cause that kind of an injury, I think he was very lucky to stay on the pitch. If I'm honest, I do think he was lucky to stay on the pitch. However, he was one of Sunderland's best players, and I'm sure they were delighted that he did stay on the pitch. Later in the match, Danso then pushes Brobby to the ground. No penalty was awarded, and they said it was because Brobby wasn't getting to the ball. I was very glad they didn't award a penalty for that, because while he does push him, I was like, after everything else that had happened in the match, the fact that Brobby maybe shouldn't have been on the pitch anymore, if they had then gone and given that decision against Danso, I think that would have been crazy. I think it would have been a bit too much. So I thought it was the right thing that wasn't given. And then right in the death in the 96th minute, Rice did have to save a shot from Porro, but that was kind of it. The game more or less petered out. I don't know if I really saw it indifferent. Like, if I didn't know De Zerbi was there, would I have watched that match and realised that a different manager was in place? Head coach, manager, whatever you want to call him. Would I have? Probably not. If I'm being honest with you, probably not. I thought they gave a better account of themselves in the first half than the second half. And as Street said, Spurs did have chances. It wasn't that Spurs were without chances. It wasn't that Spurs weren't in the game. They had some possession. They had some chances. As I said, Richarlison primarily was trying. So Lanky just didn't seem at the races. But I did think from the beginning to the end, Sunderland were the better team. I did think that the result was the right result in the end. And I do now think Spurs are going down. I think this decided it. I think they're going down. I do. I've been kind of teetering. I think they're going down. I think that's it. Streets is saying, watched about 30 minutes of the Spurs game and gave up. Sam said, thing is with Romero, he is a liability. I wouldn't have him in my team. His cons outweigh his pros. I agree with that, Sam. I do definitely agree with that. Streets is saying, Forest Villa was a lot better to watch. That is actually one of the matches I didn't watch because I watched so many. I was watching Crystal Palace Newcastle and I was watching Spurs and Sunderland. So I couldn't, it wouldn't have been humanly possible for me to watch Forest Aston Villa as well. I was getting, you know, when they pop up the little box on the screen that sort of shows you what's happening, I didn't watch it. I might watch the extended highlights later. I would say it's unlikely though. So whatever you tell me what happened and I'm just going to believe you because I didn't see it. However, it did end in a draw, which is what I predicted. I said I thought it would be 0-0. It ended up 1-1. I did think it was going to be a draw, and it was. So I'm taking it. I'm taking the wins where I can get them. But guys, any last things we would like to say about Spurs, Sunderland, relegation, De Zerbi, where we think it's happening? Because then we are going to move on to Chelsea and Manchester City. So I suppose from my roundup, I feel sorry for the Spurs fans because I think they're going down. I do think they're going down. I didn't see an enormous amount of difference. You probably won't in the first match anyway. I did think Sunderland were the better team. I thought Brobby still being on the pitch was probably a bit questionable. I thought the refereeing decisions were a little bit questionable. But I do think overall Sunderland were the better team and it probably was the right result. But that brings us to Chelsea and City. And it was a game of two halves. And Streets there says one word, Turkey. It was a game of two halves. In the first half, it almost felt like Chelsea had a chance. It almost felt like Chelsea could do something absolutely crazy in the first half. In the first half, I didn't feel like Turkey was really in the game. I didn't feel like a lot of the City players were really in the game. None of them really seemed to be at the races in the first half. Doku it was all going down that left side with Doku and Nico O'Reilly, but it wasn't really amounting to anything. They were going down that side, they kept going down that side, but they weren't doing anything. They weren't crossing, it was very wasteful. They were getting a lot of possession, they were running up and down the wing, but then they weren't doing anything. Do you know what I mean? So then the second half happens, and whatever Pep Guardiola said in the dressing room to Manchester City players at half time, oh my God, the second half, they were a completely different team. Doku realised he was allowed to cross the ball because in the first half, Haaland might as well not have been on the pitch. Nobody was crossing from. Semenyo wasn't really in the game, and when he wasn't crossing to Haaland. And Doku, he was in the game, he also was not crossing to Haaland. So I don't really think Haaland was massively in the game in the second half, but they at least remembered he was on the pitch. He did get he got a little bit more of the ball. Doku did try and start crossing. I thought Semenyo became slightly more involved, but I did think overall it was a quiet game for Semenyo. But I thought they became more effective. City became more effective in the second half. They went up that gear that we know they have, that kind of just smooth gear. And they're like, oh, fine, we'll play the match if that's what we have to do. And then boom, they just like go for it. But I thought the big difference, and I agree with Streets, I thought Cherky in the second half got into the match. In the first half, I didn't feel he was in the match. He's such a good player. And actually, I don't know if anyone's heard the comments. Probably everyone's heard the comments. But Pep Guardiola come out with, have I got them here, guys? And I'll be able to read them out rather than paraphrase. If I don't have them, I will paraphrase. It just makes it easier if I can read it. So I don't misquote him, basically. Yeah, there you go. So, and this is Paddy, this is not what I'm talking about, but this is something else. Paddy Power put this out. Rodri could walk into the Louvre, casually grab the Mona Lisa, stroll out the door with it tucked under his arm without facing any kind of punishment. A master of his trade. And I wrote, where is this? I have to find this because that's going to annoy me. Yes. So, here we go. Do you remember I told you about the attack in the Sunderland and Spurs game? One of the Spurs player, Porro, stopped the Brobby attack. Was that it? Was it Porro? It was Brobby anyway that was attacking. Where is it? Can't find who it was. But anyway, Brobby was attacking. Whoever it was stopped his attack and they're given a yellow for stopping the attack. Then we go to the Chelsea City game and literally right at the start, Rodri pulls Palmer, stops the attack, the free kick's given, no yellow card. And literally minutes later, Estevao got a yellow for kicking the ball away. Now, I don't normally agree with Gary Neville because I normally think he's a bit of a weapon. But Gary Neville's comment at the time was, both of the incidents we've just seen are standard yellow cards. If you pull another player back and prevent the attack, that's a yellow card. If you kick the ball away, it's a yellow card. Only one of them were given in this instance, and it wasn't the one for Manchester City. So that's what they're talking about there with Rodri. It's brought it all back. I've read the post and it brought it all back to me now. But it's very frustrating. It's very, 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 very frustrating. Rodri gets away with murder. Absolute murder. All the City players get away with murder on the pitch. What are you guys saying? Sam wants to talk about something else. Sorry, friend. I'm sure Shem didn't want to talk about Spurs, but we got to do it. I mean, see if United don't win tomorrow, I'm going to be like a spitting demon. I'm not going to be happy. A lot of you might not have seen me. Some of you guys will have. A lot of you guys might not have seen my match reactions after we lose. I'm like not a happy camper. I get so mad. Not on purpose, but I mean, I get mad. Sam says, City surprised me in the first half. They were poor, but the second half they woke up. We needed to score in that first half. Overall, I think we were poor though. Too many average young players. Street said first half Chelsea were stronger in my opinion. Also that Bruno has got to watch out for Turkey on that assist record. The difference is still 6 though. Paige says, on Chelsea losing, I'm here for it. City is the lesser out of the two in this scenario. Make Arsenal at least sweat. Streets is saying truth. I never want City or Arsenal to win. I just want them both to like perpetually lose. However, what we don't need is Chelsea starting to gain points right at this point of the season and putting pressure on us for the Champions League. So specifically today, yes, I do think that was the greater good for United fans anyway. Although to be fair, there does seem to be a bit of disparity on how United fans should feel and what makes you a real fan. Honestly, it drives me insane. That drives me more insane than anything else. If I ever see anyone in this chat telling someone they're not a real fan, I'm just banning you immediately. Absolutely does my head in. I don't know who you think you are. Anyway, we don't have that on this channel. It just annoys me when I see other people doing it because, like, who do you think you are? But, yes, back to Chelsea. Back to Chelsea. Let's not get started on United because we haven't even played yet and I'm getting mad. But Dave Boy saying, roll on United playing tomorrow. It seemed ages. It has been ages. It seems like ages because it has been ages. That's why. Streets is saying we better win after all of this torture of not playing. Absolutely. Yes, I am, right, Sam? Not always, but in this scenario, I'm absolutely correct. Yeah, Dave Boy, it does. It's one of the things that genuinely irritates me. Nobody has any right to tell anybody else they're not a real fan. Not your business. Stay in your lane. Who do you think you are? You be a fan the way you want to be a fan. Once it's not abusive, that's entirely up to you. That's the end of it. So let's not go down that road because I think it's ridiculous. However, Pep Guardiola, because we were talking, before I got distracted by being mad, we were talking about Ryan Cherky. You might remember from 5 minutes ago before I distracted myself. And Pep Guardiola had been asked about Ryan Cherky because he had done a little bit of showboating in the last match. It's not really the kind of thing Pep Guardiola likes. You could see him shaking his head. It's not his favourite thing. It's not his way. It's not what he wants his players to be doing. It's the kind of thing he kind of drilled out of a Jack Grealish, for example. But he was asked about it. Would it be okay for Ryan Cherky to showboat against Chelsea? And Pep has a bit of fun with the media. You know, they have a bit of a jokey relationship. And he said, listen, Ryan is a special player. He is a little bit of a free soul. I am a manager who likes to control. We know this. He said himself, we know this. So sometimes on the touchline, it is so tough to watch. My heart. He gets the ball, he starts the tricks, and my instinct is to shout, Ryan, please play simple. But if I tell him against Chelsea, stop this, I destroy the player. I take away his incredible quality. What he did against Arsenal, against Liverpool, exceptional, unbelievable. So against Chelsea, I want to see it again. If he feels it, he does it. Go out, express yourself, have fun, and show the world how good you are. We will respect the opponent, but at the same time, I don't want to take away what makes Ryan special. He's one of the most unbelievably talented players I've ever seen. Do we think Pep Guardiola is learning from some previous mistakes with some previous players? Do we think that he's maybe recognising that with some of the players he had previously, by making them fit into his control, that he did take away what made them so great and he doesn't want to do that again? Is Pep Guardiola, are we seeing the evolution of Pep Guardiola? Very interesting, because I feel like Pep Guardiola, maybe 3 or 4 seasons ago, drills it out of him. I think 3 or 4 seasons ago, Pep doesn't stop himself and he is shouting, Ryan, please play simple. So I actually think Pep feels he's made a mistake with somebody somewhere. I suspect Jack Grealish, but there may be other players, and I think he doesn't want to do it again. And I'm not saying Jack Grealish is as good as Ryan Cherky, but it's the same scenario, if you get what I mean. Flossie, honestly, one of these days my top is going to blow and I'm going to just end up having a proper rant. Sam is saying, I thought we lost the game, funnily enough, in the midfield, and also because they have a great player with Cherky. Madness, he cost 35 million, I think. He does have a little attitude. No, I do think in the second half you did. In the first half, I actually thought you guys were the better team. In the first half, I thought you guys had more chances. I mean, to be fair, if Cucurella had just looked at the line before he ran, instead of putting himself offside, you would have been 1-0 up in the first half. You had the ball in the back of the net, and Cucurella had absolutely no excuse whatsoever to not look down the line. He could have seen it and then run, and he still would have made it, I think. You could have been 1-0 up. I genuinely think in the first half, Chelsea were the better team. Another thing I noted though, and actually I think this is how you know when City don't feel like they're the better team, their players start to get really frustrated. So Donnarumma at one point is shouting and gesticulating at the referee. Now obviously we don't know what exact words he was using, but it didn't look like it was a friendly call. He was arguing with the referee to the point where the referee has to tell him to calm down. Can I just say, Harry Maguire is currently suspended because he spoke to the referees in a way they said wasn't very nice. But Donnarumma is allowed to do what he wants. He's allowed to say what he wants. He's allowed to scream at the referee and gesticulate at him. That's all okay. But Harry Maguire was offensive. Honestly, it drives me mad, the double standards. Real double standards. But I always think that's a sign that City aren't doing as well as they think they should be doing. They start to get really frustrated. They start to get angry, and you see it in everything. The second half, whole different story. They absolutely demolished you. But in the first half, I didn't think so. Yes, and Sam. Sam is giving himself the sad news that Guehi was in their academy and now plays for City. Streets is saying Turkey has that swagger, which is rare nowadays, maybe a bit arrogant, but it is what it is. I think swagger is the right word. He knows he's good. He knows he's good. He's very good. It sickens me that he plays for City because he's very good, but he does know it. Streets is saying Donnarumma looks so clumsy at times in his box. I agree with that as well. I'm glad do you know what? I'm glad you guys are saying these things, because sometimes I have these thoughts and then I think maybe it's just me that thinks that. Moonshine says it seems like Man City players get away with a lot. It does, and I'm not really normally one for the conspiracy series. Like, as you saw, I did the whole thing with Rodri and his punishment and his fine and no ban for what he said about the referees, and I thought I was very fair with that. However, I think in a general sense, if you compare, like, literally, you had the exact same incident today with Sunderland Spurs and with Chelsea City. The Spurs player gets booked, Rodri doesn't. There's another direct comparison. Donnarumma is shouting and gesticulating at the referee. Harry Maguire got a ban for doing that. Donnarumma, I don't even think he got a yellow card for it, to be honest. I'll double check if he got a yellow card because I don't want to completely just lie to you. He might have, but I didn't think he did. Let me see. Did he get a yellow? No, shockingly, he didn't. So not even a yellow, but Harry Maguire's getting a match ban. So I do think that City players, it feels like they get away with things other players don't. Yes, Bernardo Silva. I can't wait that he's gone. I can't have him. Dun, dun, dun. Sam saying, did you see Oliver's face when he had to award Arsenal a penalty? He almost started crying. Oh dear, all the familiar faces. I have one more thing, because obviously we've all seen the scoreline. Look, the second half City come out, they start scoring, they're getting the ball in the back of the net. It's you know, it ends 3-0. But for the third goal, I did wonder, did Caicedo forget that he's a professional footballer? Because there was, see you soon, Paige. Big up. Good luck in your match. The last goal, right? So the goalkeeper kicks it out to Caicedo, and then 3 City players start to close Caicedo down. And he panics. You see him. He literally just panics. And I don't really know what he does. He hits the ball with his foot. I wouldn't call it a pass. I don't know what you could call it, but he hits the ball with his foot anyway. Obviously, then Doku takes the ball off him and scores the goal. But while I was watching it, my thought was, does Caicedo know that he is a professional footballer? Sanchez wasn't at fault for it. And to be fair, I thought Sanchez made some good saves today. I know he's not always reliable for you guys. He's not always consistent. But I thought he made some good saves today. But I mean, Caicedo really on that last one. Now it didn't matter. Yous were done anyway. Yous were cooked. But for that last one, I really did wonder, what is Caicedo doing? Like, he just panicked because he saw players coming towards him. Like, he literally could have just kicked the ball to a player on his team. There was loads of them there. Streets is saying, pretty sure Caicedo could have got the ball to Palmer after his first touch, but then had second thoughts. He definitely could have got the ball. He definitely could have got the ball to another Chelsea player, but you could see, do you know the fight or fright or flight? Good God. Good God. Freeze or flight. He froze. He just froze. You see the moment where he panics. He sees the three of them coming. You see the moment where he just panics, and he just doesn't know what to do. So yeah, but again, remember we talked earlier, sometimes you have beat a team in the tunnel. It's something that a lot of us said we don't feel that Arsenal has that. However, I think that's what got into Caicedo's head in that moment, because it was Caicedo's. Yes, fight or flight, but it's actually fight, flight or freeze. I just couldn't get all three of them in this same sentence at the same time. So thank you for putting it in written format, Streets. So it's flight, fight. Ooh. A moment of silence for my ability to speak English, please, people. Fight or flight or freeze. So some people fight, some people run away, some people freeze. Caicedo froze. Apologies for the level of struggle I had with that sentence. Sam is saying the atmosphere was poor at Stamford Bridge as well. No atmosphere really. Yeah, it was quiet, but I think you could feel the tension. Both teams knew how important this match was. You could definitely feel the tension. And I think if Chelsea had taken their chances in the first half, if Cucurella had just waited half a second before he ran, you could have been 1-0 up. Now, but like that, when you see City coming out in the second half in that next gear, you know you're in trouble. You do know you're in trouble. What do we think that means for the title race, guys? Because that brings it, obviously we were talking about the gap. The gap is no longer really a very big gap. That brings it to 6 points, still with a game in hand and the game against each other to play. And in the state they're currently in, based on the matches this weekend, I do feel like City's going to beat Arsenal. That might be wrong. I do feel like City's going to beat Arsenal though. So where are we landing now? Does anybody feel City is going to win the league now? Like, genuinely believe it? I think maybe they will now. I think it's going to come down to the match where they play each other. But at the minute, City are gaining momentum and Arsenal are losing it. They're going the wrong direction. Everybody having a good old laugh at me. It's honest. Normally I can talk real good. Normally my English is fantastic, but I just couldn't get that sentence out at all. Streets. Sam is saying, will Arsenal go to win the game or go not to lose? Depends on their mentality. That's a good shout. Because they're already ahead. So really they just need to not lose. But I think sometimes when you go into a game to not lose, that's when you're most at risk of losing. When you go into a game specifically not to lose, but not with the aim of winning, I think that's when it can go wrong. Because then essentially it's defence against attack for 90 minutes plus whatever added time there is. And I think that's a recipe for disaster. So I agree with that, Sam. I think it does depend how Arsenal will approach the game. Moonshine says Arsenal 60%, Man City 40%. That's fair. I could probably go with that. To be fair. Streets is saying, I need my summer Arsenal laugh-in workouts. Come on, City. Do you know what it is? I find it very hard because I just want both of them to lose. I don't want either of them to win the league. So for me, if Arsenal win, I'm going to be sad. If Arsenal bottle it and City win, I'm going to be sad. Regardless of who wins this league, I'm not going to be very happy about it. So it's not that I don't care. I care, but I don't, for me, I don't feel a lesser of two evils. I just feel like they're both bad. So all I can hope is that United manage to stay in third and that somebody else doesn't manage to make me sad as well, including my own team. Flossie, oh, I understand. You're having a wee chat. But guys, I think that is us for this fine, lovely evening. I am going to go and make a homemade chicken curry, which I'm very much looking forward to. And I'm going to enjoy it. I'm getting nervous now about our game tomorrow. I'm very excited to see football back. I'm very excited to watch my team back. However, based on some of the results this weekend, I am now sort of a little bit stressy because Leeds is never an easy game. The fact that we haven't played in so long, the fact that all the results this weekend have gone all sorts of ways, I'm a little bit stressing now. So I'm going to go and enjoy my evening before my own team upset me tomorrow. Have an absolutely lovely evening, guys. I will be back tomorrow, 12 o'clock. We're doing the Newcastle show tomorrow, guys. That is what's happening. So no teams better announce nothing because that is what is happening tomorrow at 12. Have a fantastic evening. Enjoy your wee selves. Thank you for being here. Thank you for getting involved. Smash a like if you haven't done so already. This is going to redirect you. MHF are doing a stream. They might already be live. This is going to take you there. Even if you don't stay for the stream, guys, please do let them know that I've sent you over. Mo was the very first person to ever do a redirect to my stream. So just go in, say hi, let him know I sent you, and then go and do whatever you like. But have a lovely evening, okay? See you soon.